No, kind of like... I do remember the first time that I met Phil and I played against him was at the World Series in '05 when I actually won. And I will be perfectly honest, that was very daunting. He had a huge chip stack and he had this presence about him. But, 10 years on and playing with him several times, it's just another opponent, really, at the end of the day. You know what he's capable of. You know he's a high-level thinking player, so you just play accordingly.
Yeah, the best way is to treat him like he's just anyone else, right? Well, hard to do.
That's the beautiful thing about poker, though. When you sit at the poker table, it levels everybody out. Whether you're rich, whether you're poor, whether you've won, whether you haven't won, everyone's the same because the chips actually do the talking.
Phil Ivey has pocket kings here, and he's raised it up to 45,000. That's the problem with guys like Phil Ivey, is they get good hands too, right?
They're allowed to.
Folds around to Dan Smith, and he announces all in, so I can't imagine Phil Ivey's going to fold. A quick call. Dan Smith, our short stack. He's got pocket fours, so, well, he's walked into a bit of a situation here, and he's on the verge of elimination.
This young man, Dan Smith, just recently won the Global Poker Index Poker Player of the Year for 2014.
Well, he's going to need a lot of help. He wants to see a 4 on this flop. Can he take chips off Phil Ivey? The flop, a 9-7-7 flop. Great flop for Phil.
Kings of Phil Ivey in front.
The table's gone very quiet now. The pot just a little under 600,000. The turn, a queen of hearts. So now only 2 cards in the deck can save Dan Smith.
These two aren't the most animated of characters.
But you just know that their minds are going at a million miles an hour, don't you? The river, an 8 of clubs. So we will lose Dan Smith. And Phil Ivey will take his chips. But I've got to hand it to them. They know how to play the nosebleeds, like you say. Folds around to Doug Polk, our chip leader. He lets it go. Round to Eric Seidel. We've spoken time and time again about how this man continues to play at such a high level. Richard Yong, one of the biggest characters we've seen in a long time. Still want to get a home game at his place, but I don't want to pony up the money to buy in. And there is Phil Ivey in the small blind. Eliminated Dan Smith a little earlier. Makes the call with ace-5 of clubs and Scott Seaver in the big blind. We'll check.
This calling out of the small blind with an ace has become more and more common these days. And it's partly pot control, partly trapping and, being elusive with the strength of your hand.
Scott Seaver with an inside straight draw.
Check.
Ivey checks, as does Scott. The turn, a 7 of clubs now, so Seaver pairs his 7.
Check.
Ivey checks again. This time Scott Seaver's going to fire.
Bidding 33.
Well, Seaver's got middle pair here. He feels confident. Ivey's checked twice. Show no strength at all at the moment.
Look at this. Phil Ivey's going to look him up.
Well, Ivey has an 8 or a 4 to make a straight. Unfortunately, the 8 won't do him any good.
Well, the river's a 5 of spades, so Ivey pairs his 5.
Kids to feed.
Scott Seaver, though, in control with a pair of 7s.
I think Seaver's thinking now, if Ivey has an 8 to make the straight or a 4, he'll bet into me. If he checks, I'm going to bet. If he bets, I'm going to call. And I think Scott will call here.
Well, Phil Ivey bets 80,000 into Scott Seaver. This is Phil Ivey at his best, figuring out what his opponent has and betting into him. Scott Seaver, though, he's no spring chicken. He knows exactly what's going on.
It certainly looks like Ivey, the way Ivey called the flop, certainly looks like he may have been on a draw to a straight. He may get Scott to fold here.
And he did, so there you go. We talk time and time again about how he plays at this high level, but he's made his opponent for his hand and he's taken advantage of it. Great play to him. It's just no coincidence.
Understand that inherently. So Doug doesn't want to bloat the pot unnecessarily.
Scott Seaver folds round to the button once again. Doug Polk has been rather active lately. 4 players remain. One of them's going to take 2.2 million, but only one of them has won this title twice already, including last year, and that is Phil Ivey. Polk raises it up with ace-4 offsuit. There he is in shot.
Call.
And he makes the call, so they'll go at it again. This time Ivey with a 10 and a 9 offsuit. Here comes the flop. There is a 10 there. Well, and an interesting flop too, a 10-3 deuce. So Polk with a straight draw and Ivey with top pair. Ivey checks quickly.
Now, Doug can bet here, or he can elect to take a free card for his gut shot straight.
Checks behind Ivey. The turn, a 2 of hearts. Action on Phil.
Betting 75.
75,000,
just a little over half of the pot.
Doug can quite comfortably call here with his ace high. He's going to be ahead not most of the time, but a lot of the time he's going to be ahead. And he's also drawing to an ace or a 5.
Call.
Makes the call in position. The river is a 6 of clubs, so Ivey's pair of 10s are best. Action is on Phil. Can he get Doug Polk to call here with ace high, depending on the amount?
He could. Yeah, it depends what, how weak Doug sees Ivey as being and what the size of this bet is. Can't really bet too much. And he's bet the pot.
Betting 200.
That's almost the pot. So Ivey's taken the line that I want to represent a bluff, basically, to get called by ace high. This is the sort of thinking that these guys are doing. Like, he's put Doug Polk on ace high. Ivey said, I've got top pair, I want to get a call. I'm going to bet the maximum to make it look like I'm actually trying to steal the pot.
And Doug Polk hasn't moved, so Phil Ivey's instincts once again, no surprise. Clearly making Doug Polk think about a call. You can almost hear a pin drop in the room. Doug Polk really considering this call. You're right, Joe.
580,000.
Raised to 580.
Wow, this is a surprise. He's made a raise here.
So he's turned his hand into a bluff, basically.
And Phil Ivey hasn't moved, but look at those eyes.
Now, it's actually very simple for Ivey. There's no use raising. He's only going to get called by a better hand. Okay? He believes he's in front. If he does believe he's in front, he can just call and see what happens, right? If he believes he's behind, he can raise now to try and get his opponent to fold. But I think Ivey will just call.
Well, Ivey was caught by surprise there.
I didn't mean to bet 200, I meant to bet 175.
Ivey speaking out loud a little bit. You don't get that very often from Phil.
He just gave up a lot of information there. But I wonder whether that was deliberate to try and get a reaction from Polk.
You can never tell, right? He said, just to be clear, that he said that I meant to bet 175,000. Trying to elicit a reaction from Doug Polk, perhaps, a tell of some kind.
I think it was a pretty futile attempt, but maybe he's just being honest.
Does he got to put the chips in the pot or no when you raise? What's the rule?
Bets at 580.
You could just say it. You could just say it without putting the chips in.
Phil Ivey's just asking and clarifying a few tournament rules. As we mentioned earlier, Joe, when they travel, those rules change, so you've got to clarify occasionally.
Yeah, but now that was definitely his searching for information there.
Okay.
He knows that this is now playing poker, right? This is playing with people's minds right now.
So you were right the first time. Don't trust them.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't trust poker players.
Yeah, he knows.
Not at the table anyway. Confused, frustrated. The tug of war is back, and even Phil Ivey gets it. It's great. Can he do it? Can he convince himself to call? He wants to, he doesn't want to. Do I, don't I? Every poker player in the world faces this, even Phil Ivey.